just to set the record straight, Adelina just passed the bar exam in New Mexico. So she is ready to get licensed. And
Yep.
it's been quite a journey, right?
Yeah, it has a year and a half, pretty much.
Yeah. Yeah, we got a lot of current 3Ls. A lot of them are tuning in, hopefully right now. And this is all for them. This is all for them to kind of show them like the struggle that we went through. Yeah, they're about to go through it. They're about to start what we started a year ago. And we kind of just wanted to show them this other side, right? Not everyone passes the first try.
The not so glorious side of it.
I found out like the first week of September, because ours come out way earlier than Arizona's do. I took it in New Mexico.
So when those results came out, like, pretty crappy day. So can you walk us through like what that was like?
Yeah, it was actually kind of weird. My best friend, I like to call her out on this. I was actually just like taking a nap that day. Also in New Mexico, we don't know the exact day that it comes out. Like Arizona it's going to come out October 10th or whatever.
Yeah.
New Mexico doesn't tell you. They're like, maybe about 5 weeks after you take the exam. So I had no idea it was coming out that day. I just got a text message from my friend with a bunch of hearts, and she never texts me anything like that. So I was like, oh my God,
suspicious.
It's up. Yeah, I was like, it has to be up. So I looked, and sure enough, my name was not there. And like, at first, I didn't really know how to react. I like didn't know if I should be sad or mad or what. I definitely cried. I was like, this sucks. I spent like, you spend weeks, the entire summer, just like grueling, agonizing every single day, hours on end. And then you find that out and you're just like, oh, that sucks.
Yeah, it's really, I'm glad you mentioned that because it really illustrates, it's a complex sort of feeling. You go through a lot, I think, internally.
Mm-hmm.
And I should have started with like, some of this stuff might be really uncomfortable because it's probably one of the worst days. I mean, not to be dramatic, but it's true. It's probably one of the worst days of your life. I mean, I could think of worse, but in context, yeah, I would say it's up there. So dealing with those could be uncomfortable, but I think in sharing these stories, I know that how much they've inspired me, but we can turn around and inspire our students who are, within the year are going to be in our shoes. So yeah, I think they need to hear your story, and it's going to empower a lot of people.
I've been working from home since before COVID even. So that was kind of nice to at least just be home. I wasn't like in the office. Because I think that would just been even worse. But so that was good. And then like later that day, I had some friends obviously who did pass, and I congratulated them, and we still went out and celebrated. But like up until the point of going out that night to just like have some celebratory drinks for them, I was just like, I need to be upset, and then we're gonna move on. Like that's all you really can do. And that's what I did.
Insightful. That's very insightful that you kind of recognize that early on, like that was the game plan.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't get over it that day by any means, but once it came time to start studying for the February exam, I was like, okay, July is behind me. My score means nothing. It doesn't mean anything to this new exam. I just need to like start over. And
yeah,
so that's what I did.
A lot of the guests that we've had have talked about that experience of, I would say 100 times out of 100, you're gonna, if you are unsuccessful, you're gonna have friends and classmates that were. That's a sure bet. So it's kind of difficult, right? Because you are extremely happy for them, but then you need to internalize and process this sort of like unhappy moment. Balancing test, freaking it's tough because it's hard to show sort of where you're at?
It was a really weird day because you, like you said, you want to be happy for the friends who did pass, but at the same time, like, you also need to take the time to be upset for yourself. And it's that weird balance of like, I mean, that day, like I said, I was upset up until the night we went out, up until we went out. And then I was just like, okay, it's time to celebrate. And then once I come back home, I can be upset again. And
Yeah.
I was. And
I think it's really,
yeah, it was weird.
I think it's really interesting and brave that you were able to celebrate, you know,
Yeah.
the other people's accomplishments, because I don't think that I've heard that before. You know, it's kind of, I think, let's say for instance, if you said, look guys, like, I want to, you know, chill, everyone would be totally understanding of that.
They would,
I think most people
they would have been like, no problem.
Yeah, most people would take that route, but I think it's really cool that you were able to sort of put it aside and deal with that moment in that way. So
Yeah.
I mean, what were the next steps? I mean,
so I actually was fortunate enough that the summer before law school, I was actually in a pre-law program for Native students. And because I was in that, I also got a lot of bar exam help from them. And so once I found out I didn't pass the first time, they were like, okay, what resources do you need? And then we also like had a couple meetings, kind of like, how do we go about it as retakers? We looked at like our scores, seeing, okay, was it the MBE that killed us? Was it the MEE? Was it the MPTs? What was it? Like, what do we really need to work on? So that was really helpful. And for me personally, even with my exam results that I did pass, it's still the MBE that I struggle with. Like, I've never, ever been good with multiple choice. So the first exam, it was like really bad. Like my MBE score was just terrible. And so that was definitely something I knew I needed to work on. So it was like, okay, get Adaptabar, get extra just MBE questions that I can do, and do all of the MBE questions that I can do on my bar exam course also. So that's what I did. It didn't seem to work out the second time.
Adaptabar is the recurring theme. I should probably try to get sponsored by them.
Yeah, Adaptabar, if you're
everybody,
listening, sponsor us.
me, that if you need to improve MBE, there's no alternative. That's the program. Yeah, I was kind of the opposite. Like, well, not the opposite. My first MBE scores were, you know, not good enough, but it was both the writing and the MBE the first time. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the guests have talked about their bar prep time period prior to their first one. So if you can look back to like prepping for the bar prior to taking it the first time, can you identify, you know, what attributed to the outcome?
I think a lot of the frustration with my bar exam course, it was just too much for me, and it like almost, I mean, I don't think I realized I was doing it at the time, but looking back on it, I think I was like rebelling against it, being like, oh, you want me to finish all of this today? Fine. And I would just kind of speed through things, and I wasn't really taking the time to read every single MBE question explanation, or like I would read through my outlines, but it wasn't really like absorbing the material as much as like just wanting to get through it, because it was like, oh, you're at this percentage today, and it's like, well, I'm gonna do extra then, but I wasn't really doing extra. I was just trying to beat the system.
I hope this translates to the people that may not have taken the bar yet, and maybe they don't understand. But I totally get what you mean, because that was the case with me. I mean, obviously there's other factors, right? There's like specific things you can point to that may or may not. But honestly, to me, I was just trying to get through everything and I didn't pay attention to where I needed the fundamental knowledge and to focus on, you know, getting my baseline knowledge. I was just like trying to check the blocks to get the work done so that I can get my percentage. I got wrapped up in the percentages.
So did I. So the second time I stayed with the same bar prep course, and just knowing that I needed to work more on MBE, I didn't focus so much on the lectures the second time around, which was probably a mistake because I don't really know if I paid attention to the lectures the first time around.
Yeah.
I thought I did. I mean, I watched them the second time, but I wasn't as engaged. I was more focused on like, okay, let me just take some more MBE quizzes. And I really didn't focus that much on essays the second time, which I don't think hurt me. My essay scores for my second exam weren't bad. But I think it was just like another, okay, I felt like I've already been through these exact same lectures. I know what they're gonna say. I just need to do the practice problems. And so that's kind of what I did. Yeah. I don't know, what about you?
So there was kind of a financial incentive to stay with the same program because they let you do it for free. And so I did that. It's really similar. I did that thinking that I knew what I needed to do. So I was like, I'll be fine if I just do this. And I actually just did everything. But this is going to sound really crazy, but you know, inherently I know that if you just repeat the same shit, the outcome is going to be the same.
Yep.
And I kind of did that. It was kind of, now that I think back, it was kind of ridiculous. Like I literally just did the program again, thinking it was just going to be like, ding.
Me too.
But one thing that I did that I think I did right was that the second time around, Adapt-A-Bar was like a primary like tool, and it improved my MBE. But yeah, I was dealing with sort of like personal issues, and I wasn't sleeping. So I didn't sleep the night before both of those bar exams.
Yeah.
So I had like bad insomnia, and I remember the crazy shit was like, it happened the first time, but I was like, oh well, it's happening. Go do what you gotta do.
Yeah, it's actually funny you mentioned the sleep. Oh,
yeah, I couldn't believe it. Like I'm just up, it's like 3 a.m, and I'm like, I can't believe this is happening again. And the thing about the second time is it hit me harder. Like as soon as I saw that first essay, I had no idea what to do. So MBE actually improved because I actually got sleep because it's day 2. But my essays, my day 1 was way worse. So I walked out of there knowing that I wasn't gonna pass. And yeah, that's why the experience is so like distinct for me, because I thought maybe I had a shot the first time, but I had no shot at all. But at least I know that Adapt-A-Bar works because my MBE improved like dramatically. But I mean, you can issue spot and do essays like, and your brain's not working correctly because you're not sleeping and shit like that. So yeah, it was like personal issues, and it was weird because I was like, the only time this ever happened to me was like before I would deploy to the Middle East. Like the night before I get on the plane. I would never sleep the night before, but whatever, I'm about to fly for 12 hours, so it's fine. But this time you actually have to use your brain. So yeah, I mean, the mental health, I had to, before going to the third time, I had to really focus on tackling that issue. And then it sort of like took care of itself. So yeah. I mean, going into it the second time, you were saying you had to relive this scenario.
You had problems sleeping.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so like I mean, the amount of nights that I was up until like 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning is ridiculous. I mean, I would think I was tired at like 10. I would go to bed and then I would just be wide awake until like 5 o'clock in the morning. And then I would, of course, wake up the next day and I would just be like, I don't really want to study, but I would. And that obviously had a lot to do with it, I think. It's just like I wasn't even really fully functioning.
Yeah, the mindset.
So
Execute the task.
That's one thing. Like, that's one part, like, piece of advice, I think, that to the people who have to take it first time, second time, however many times you're about to take it, if you're having sleep issues, like, go deal with it right away.
Totally.
Because by week 6, when you're still not sleeping, it's like it's not good.
Yeah, I mean, when I was kind of discussing this project with Amanda Bynum, I was sharing with her like my personal sort of issues, and because she was also working with me for the bar prior to me taking it, and I was like, you know what, you always stress how important it was to, you know, your mental health, your physical health, and then it's kind of like, and I was like, yeah, you know what, it's not like I wasn't listening to you, it's just, I don't know, like I didn't know how to deal with it. So I mean, you had to relive this day again of like your name not being on it.
I did.
So how does that differ from the first time?
So again, like I said earlier, New Mexico, you do not know the day. They just drop it just one day. Hey, pass listed up. I was walking home. This was early April. So COVID was just like beginning, you know, a lot of stuff was closed down. So I had just walked down the street. We actually have like a liquor store down the street. Of course, not knowing that the pass list was going to come out, I went to go get like some beer for the night. I don't know. And on my way home, I get the email and I'm just like, oh God, I just knew, like, I just had the feeling like this isn't going to be good. And so when I got home, I looked and sure enough, my name was not there again. And I, again, cried because I was like, this sucks. I have to do this again. Are you kidding me? Texted my friends. All of them were like, it's okay. We know you're going to get it the third time. Like, we're all here for you. And yeah, it was just kind of like, all right.
Yeah. So one of the things that I felt that I think is kind of universal is like, if it was just feeling bad because we didn't perform as an individual, I think that's one thing. But just like you talked about your friends reaching out and stuff, you just feel kind of like you disappointed the team, family, like, friends, everybody.
Exactly. Like, and you know, even every time that I've taken it, it's just like, to not see my name, it sucked for me, but like having to tell my friends, I was like, oh, fuck, I have to tell them again.
Embarrassing.
That sucked a lot. And but you have, I mean, you don't, I guess if you want to keep it to yourself, you can. They're obviously going to find out. It's no secret, but yeah, thankfully I do have great friends.
Yeah, I mean, they can impliedly find out if, like, you
right.
just didn't post anything that day.
It's obviously like public knowledge. You just Google New Mexico State Bar pass list.
Yeah. You know, having taken it 3 times myself, how is it different moving forward from that? Because I had doubts about wanting to continue, and I've never really said this publicly, but I actually applied to be a police officer, and I mean, not to say that it was just because Katie talked to me about having to take it again, but that conversation helped. And then I thought about like really what I wanted to do, and I was like, look, you can go back to school, and that would sort of give you the avenue to sort of set myself up for success, and it's a viable option. I mean, this is a total career change, and you just it's not like law school education would be wasted. It's obviously applicable, but it's like, do you want to turn around and not necessarily give up, but like, yeah, do you want to give this up now? And because once you go down this direction, it's like, are you going to come back and do it? No. having to deal with not passing the second time and then moving forward, was it any different than the first time?
Kind of. I mean, I was kind of just at the point where I was like, I mean, I had a lot of conversations with my parents, especially just kind of like, okay, do I take it just to take it? And, you know, if I pass, great. And if I don't, whatever at that point. Or is it going to be like, I just take a break and I just start working for a little bit. And then in like a year or so, if I decide to take it again, then I take it again. I mean, it was a lot of those conversations, and it kind of just came down to the point of like, you've already done it twice, just do it one more time, and hopefully I pass the third time and it'll all work out. And if I don't, then at that point, then we can really have those conversations, because at this point it's been a year and a half. I mean, if I hadn't passed this third time, it's been a year and a half of just basically studying, and it's like, okay, at what point do you want to move on with your life? Yeah. And so after the second time, it was like, just do it one more time. I had a lot of support from my parents for that. They were like, well, you know, I'm very lucky in that way.
Sure.
And they're like, you know, well, they financially, they were like, you just focus on just this last time, and then at that point we'll discuss where to go from here, like there, if I don't pass the third time, which I thankfully did. But yeah, so it was nice to just have that support at least.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good plan, because honestly, like, give it another shot if you didn't pass twice, because you're still not that far removed. But I think you brought up a great point. That's another consistent theme, is like having an outcome being unsuccessful, it turns your whole plans and your everything. It kind of controls your life.
Yep.
And it's really crazy and kind of shitty. But, you know, I was in a position where I was working as a law clerk, and that's supposed to just be 12 months at the most. And having to take it twice, that's a year process. So I think that's a really good thing to point out to students that have never taken it. You plan on what you're going to do after law school, then what you're going to do after you pass the bar. But those plans get put on hold, like big time. Yeah. And then you have to start thinking about, well, do I keep this job? Do I do this? And then, I mean, yeah, so that it really does sort of control your life. And
you expect to pass the first time. And so, you know, by the fall of taking it, that, okay, cool, I can move forward. I can get a job as an attorney. I can do this, I can do that. But when you don't pass the first time, you're like, okay, this has to be put on hold for 6 more months. And then you don't pass the second time, and you're like, okay, can this even be put on hold for 6 more months? Yeah. Like, you know, do you like, many people don't even have the luxury of being able to take it the third time or more, because it's like they don't have the resources to sit and take it 3 times. It's expensive. Many people, like, it's hard to work and study.
Yeah.
And a lot of people can't do it. I mean, yeah. So it was a tough decision, but I was like, you know what? Yeah, let's just do it one more time. Go from there.
Well, it worked out well for you, right?
It did.
So before we go on to the third time, which was the successful final no more bar prep for you, I think an interesting aspect of it all is kind of like the social media and you know, when the results come out, it's a crazy dynamic, because it's obviously a really happy day for people that pass, but for people that didn't pass, social media is like, it's painful, right?
Yeah. Both times you have all of your friends posting that they passed, and you sit there and you like all of their posts because you are happy for them, but then you're not posting, and you're like, and like, that's what I was saying earlier, it's no secret that you didn't pass at, like, in this day and age, because when all of your classmates are posting that they passed and you're not, it's pretty obvious. And
kind of quiet.
yeah. So I even this third time even thought to myself, like, do I even post? And I was like, screw it. Yeah, of course I'm going to. I'm proud of myself.
Sure.
But it's like knowing how bad, like, it's not anybody's fault that I felt bad, but like you're scrolling through all of these posts and you're just like, I'm not one of those people posting. Like, wow.
Yeah, it's interesting,
yeah.
because it almost sounds, I could see how some people, especially older people, would be like, that sounds so childish. Like, you're worried about social media posts, but it's a big part of, life, and especially like as a law student, a recent law grad.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I think it's a huge thing that I know that there's a lot of people that sort of like detach from it because they don't want to see. What was it like going into it the third time? This is like an unthinkable thing. Like, you don't prepare for this as a law student. Like, you don't graduate law school, be like, yep, I'm gonna take this bar 3 times, and on the third time I'm gonna fucking kill it.
When you're standing up there
making,
when you're standing up on the graduation stage making a speech, because you're
like
SBA president, your thoughts in your mind aren't, oh yeah, when I passed the bar the third time.
Yeah.
No. So the third time I went with a completely different bar prep course, which I think made the entire difference. And I went with Kaplan, and let me tell you, it changed my life.
That's really cool.
Yeah, I mean, the study plans are just so different. With Barbary, it's 7 days a week, 8 hours a day, and it was just too much for me. No. Kaplan at least gave you weekends off. I mean, they suggested you still study, obviously, but it wasn't like structured like Barbary was, where they were still assigning 8 hours worth of study material on Saturday and Sunday as well, which I think was a huge help, because during the week, say a random Tuesday, I just like wasn't feeling well, or just like was so tired that I couldn't study. I knew that I had Saturday and Sunday to catch up, or I knew that I had Saturday and Sunday to do extra. It wasn't like I was trying to keep up with it, which I think was I honestly think that made all of the difference for me personally. And I also had Adapt-A-Bar, which meant on Saturdays and Sundays, if I didn't have anything to catch up on with Kaplan, I was just doing Adapt-A-Bar all day. And I mean, I improved my MBE score, so obviously that helped. And yeah. So if the bar review course doesn't work the first time, and you can switch.
Did you do the program like to a T?
Yeah. So the third time, a bird just flew straight into my window.
It's a sign.
So the third time I did the whole program. I did everything they told me to do, and I did extra work with Adapt-A-Bar, so that was nice. Yeah, I mean, I did the entire program. Like, there was, like I said, some days where it would be like 3:00, and I'm like, I'm just exhausted. I can't do any more today. So I would just like leave it till the next day, and it always worked out fine. But I got through the whole course.
Yeah,
and it wasn't overwhelming at all.
Really?
No, I maybe it was because it was my third time. I like knew what to. I don't know, but like the third time, I just didn't feel as like stressed out, and
yeah, that's a good point.
Like boggled down almost.
The list came out again, and I'm sure it was different this time.
I'm going to pull this podcast thing and be like, if you're just now tuning in, we don't know when we get the results. It's so random. Like, so it was October 16th. I had texted Sabrina and Bobby, and I was just like, I just had a feeling. I was like, you guys, I think it's going to be today. I don't know why I feel like it's going to be today. It's just like, I just have this feeling. And so all day long, they were checking in with me like, have you found out? Have you found out? Sabrina was like, I keep refreshing the list and like, it's not there. And I was like, yeah, I don't know. Like, maybe it's not today. Because at that point, it was like 1:30 in the afternoon. And it was like, no, at this point, they're not going to post it. And so one of my friends from here in Albuquerque, she comes and picks me up, and we go to the grocery store, and we're like in the liquor section. And we're talking about like, oh, okay, what should we get? Should we get like whatever to drink for us tonight? And all of a sudden it's 3 p.m. and 3, mind you, which is like weird that it would come out at that hour. I get a text on my phone that's from the bar examiners, and it's like the September 2020 bar exam is posted, bar pass list is posted. Congratulations to everyone who passed. Like, here's the list. And I just looked at her and I was like, Lauren, it's up. And she goes, don't even look at it. And I was like, oh. And I like froze, and I of course I looked, but she somehow beat me to it. And we were jumping, screaming, crying in front of the champagne bottles in the grocery store. It was crazy. So funny, so me, like that's where it would happen. Yeah, so it was great. And it's actually, I like looked up and we were like on security footage, and I'm like, oh my god, I'm sure
you should get a copy.
Weird.
Yeah,
I was actually thinking about it.
You should totally ask them. I mean, they archive those things. That would be awesome.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, what a crazy and exciting time. I mean, it must have been overwhelming, but you know, joyous.
Yeah, it was freaking nuts. It was happy tears this time though. It was like
happy
I was
tears
just so
at the liquor
excited.
store. I mean,
and I called my parents immediately. Yeah, we bought our liquor and immediately drove back to my parents' house, and I was like, I passed.
You want that to be your episode caption? Happy tears at the liquor store.
Yes.
But man, that's amazing. Like 3 times, I could, you know, I understand the feeling of doubt, of like, what am I doing wrong? Because it's not like immediately apparent, right? You can't.
And I mean, and I have to also mention, I obviously we took it during COVID. So New Mexico pushed back our exam, so we took it in September. And it was a completely different ball game. I mean, it was 4 examinees to a room with a proctor. That was it. It was not in a big conference hall. We all wore masks. We all had to do the temperature readings. We had to do symptom checks both nights before. We were like spaced out with when we started to like check in. So we like checked in groups even. And I honestly think that made a huge difference for me. Thinking back on it, like the first 2 exams, just knowing that there were people in the room that I knew, and like there were a couple where I could see people that I knew, like a couple people away, and I would just.
This is in New Mexico?
Yeah, and I would just be so
imagine
distracted.
taking it in Phoenix.
Exactly.
It's seriously like a big freaking reunion, because think about it. You haven't seen most of these people since law school graduation.
Right.
It's like you see them again at registration. It's like, yo.
Oh, what's up?
It's like, it's kind of like, it feels like a big party, but obviously it's not. But like, it's kind of distracting.
It's so distracting. And so I know the first 2 exams, I sat there and like, I would just, you know, get lost, like, and I just like, I wonder what they've been up to these days, or like, I wonder where they're going to be working, or blah, blah, blah. And I know I was so distracted. And so this 3rd time, I was in a room actually with only 2 other people, did not know them. We were like 10 feet away from each other. I was facing a wall. That's all I could see. And I was like, wow, I think that made a lot of difference for me personally. I was just like not having that distraction there. Really, I mean, for my essays, I like zipped through them. I was like, yeah, I know this. I know what this law is.
That's awesome. So
that's one thing. If you cannot be distracted, which obviously is not up to you. That's up to wherever you're taking the exam. But like, if you know you get distracted easily by things, like just know that going in and just try to stay very focused.
If you remember back to being a 3L and wondering about the bar exam, like what would you want to tell them? Like what would you have wanted to know?
What would I want to know? Hey, this is going to sound like, I don't know, very obvious almost, but like, do what you need to do for yourself. I know a lot of the first time studying, there's only a handful of bar exam prep courses, and checking in with your friends is one thing, but don't compare yourself to where you're at compared to your friends, because you all study differently. You all are getting the law at different points. So if you're still getting 60% on your quizzes, but your friends are getting like 90s, don't compare. Just don't even talk about it. You can check in with each other, like, how's it going? Like, are you okay? Type of thing, but just it doesn't matter how everyone else is doing. It's your exam. People think that everyone is studying for the bar exam and is like living this hippity dippity, everything's great life, but people have things going on,
for sure,
whether it be personally, whether it be with your family, whatever it is, and like, you just have to take care of that. And it is just an exam. I know people say that and you're just like, but it's not. But it is. I mean, at the end of the day, things are bigger than the bar exam, and so like, take care of that, and that makes a big difference too. Take care of your mental health. Like, if you need to take care of your friends or family, like, do that also. But
so it can be done, right? Because I think
it can be done.
One of the questions I get asked all the time from people that are about to take it for the first time is like, is it true that you have to study like 10 hours a day, 7 days a week? And it's kind of hard to answer that question. I mean, are you willing to do that? Have you done that before? If you've never even done that in law school, 10 hours a day, 7 days a week, you're not just going to turn into a freaking machine. And like, I don't think that's, and I think there's a certain program that kind of pushes that philosophy.
Mm-hmm.
It's not necessary.
No.
And for me at my, not that I'm like old, but like, I'm older than most people. I don't even think my body can sustain that in my mind. Yeah. I would probably die.
Well,
what is your take on the whole, like, 10 hours a day? Like, if a student asked you that, is it true you have to, during bar prep, it's 10 hours a day, 7 days a week, no breaks, I don't get to go to the gym or whatever?
Well, that's ridiculous, first of all. Like, if you need to go to the gym to, like, let your mind relax, it's better to do that than, like, keep cramming.
You can spare an hour.
You can spare an hour, and like, honestly, that hour
that's sarcastic, like more than an hour, but yeah.
But like, like, you can spare an hour to just go to the gym, or just like walk around or watch stupid TV. Like, the amount of Housewives I have watched in the past year is just, exponential. Because sometimes you just need to just, like, your brain needs a break. It really does. And that's what I was saying with, like, it's your exam. Is there are some people who are capable of studying hours on end every single day, and it's fine.
We've seen them in the library.
Exactly. There are those people. But there are also people like me who can't sit there for 8+ hours a day every single day. Like, I need a break to just process what I just learned for the day. And like, I'm not saying, go out and party every weekend and just forget about, what you did the whole week, but like, take a break. And you know what? If your friend is still studying, let them study. You know what? That's what they want to do. Like, you need to do what you need to do. And don't let anybody make you feel bad that you're not studying. Like, if they studied 10 hours a day and you studied 7, like, okay, that's what you need to do for that day. That's fine. Like,
yeah, everybody.
Don't let anybody guilt you.
Yeah, everybody's on their own path.
Yeah.
And there's.
I think
that's a good point. Like, there's not one blueprint.
No.
It's kind of, we should have known that, right? Because it's kind of like law school. I can't study the way that somebody else can for an exam, and we might be able to get the same outcome.
Exactly.
Or I might
think
do
you should
worse.
know that.
But either way, like we kind of have our own path to get there.
Yeah, you think you should know that going into it because that's how you were all of law school, all before law school, but then you get to the bar exam and it's every single program is set up where it's like, here's what you're going to do for today, here's what you're going to do for tomorrow, here's what you're for 8 weeks, and you think that that's exactly what you have to do, whereas sometimes it's like, okay, if I have to study in 2-hour increments, that's better than studying for like 5 or 4 or 5 hours at a time, and then taking a break. It's like, you know how you study well is all I'm saying. Like the bar exam is no different.
So as an example, like it would be my daily task list, and one of them I love these days, and it was like to my undoing. It would be like read civil procedure outline. But the thing is, like, I shouldn't have looked at that like it's what I have to do to get my check and my percentage up. I would say I didn't get an advanced sort of like foundation of a lot of the topics until like the third time when I was like, you know what, I'm not doing a damn essay today because I need to like rattle off these rules like it's no tomorrow, because that's more helpful than like just keep checking these task lists.
Okay, let me just like quickly read through this outline just so I can say that I did it. And instead of just actually doing it, I think that if I would have done 85% of a program, but like actually done it, I would have done better than trying to finish the whole program just to finish it.
That's true. Because I don't know if there's things that I kind of would rather say to just people that have taken it before, because it might come off wrong, and I don't want to be dangerous in that sense. But like, after you've taken it, right, and everybody says this, there's so much crap that you studied so damn much that wasn't even fucking on it. Yeah. But the thing is, like,
I agree.
Why I think that's dangerous to tell that to first time takers is like, you don't know what, you kind of know what's going to be on the MBE, but you don't know like what they're going to test more heavily. And with the MEEs, approach that shit like they're going to test it all, because I made that mistake. But also, I don't want to get the wrong idea saying like, well, I don't want to waste my time studying the stuff that's not going to be on it, so I'm going to pick and choose. You might pick and choose wrong, and then you're just shit out of luck on game day. But yeah, there's a lot, dude. I thought Civ Pro was going to be on my essays for sure. This time, I was all up in Civ Pro like it was nobody's business, and it wasn't on there. It was not an essay, like. But it was fine because I got so much understanding for the MBE that I didn't have before.
I did so many MBE questions that improved my essay score because I was reading, that's the other thing, read explanations even to the wrong answers, like why an answer is wrong, because I remember one of the essays the third time, I had just like a couple days before heard an MBE explanation on that subject, and so I knew it. I was like, oh, it's that. I like remember the exact rule and everything, but it sounds weird, but like I didn't necessarily remember it from like studying. I remember it from that question, and so my MBE like helped me on the MEE. So at the end of the day, it all helps some way or another. So just do it.
I was still getting sort of like surprised and still understanding new things the third time, because this is
me too,
that I'm actually diving in and saying like, oh, this is like directly related to like certain other concepts that I thought were separate. And it's almost like it kind of made me feel bad, because I'm like, I should have known this. I guarantee if I ask one of my buddies, they'll be like, you didn't fucking learn that in 1L.
There were some things also the third time where I was like, oh my gosh, I finally Like that, it finally made sense to me. And I don't know why it took me till the third time. Like, I don't know if it was just that, like, I wasn't paying attention to that specific subject the first 2 times or what it was. But yeah, there were a
number
few
of things. Like, who knows?
Oh my God, there were a few things the third time that I was like, oh, that's what that is.
Like, what were some of the things that you did that were kind of not what the program said to do, but you found helpful, like flashcards or?
Well, I also did have flashcards, the critical pass flashcards. The first time I only had the MBE ones, but they actually have MEE subjects also, so I got both of them. So I did those. Not all the time. Like, flashcards don't really help me as much as they help a lot of people, but they were helpful when I would kind of forget something.
Yeah.
And
serve a purpose.
I would be like, oh, I know that's going to be on the flash. Yeah. But one thing I did, I've realized that, like, I need to write things down. And so the days that the program would be, you know, mostly review instead of lecture day. And they would say, you know, review the crim law outlines for homicide or whatever it was. I would not only, like, read them, I would write down things that I'd be like, oh yeah, I really need to remember that. So I personally need to, like, write things down, and it might help other people. It's not just like reading, it's also writing, not everything down. Obviously you don't want to, like, completely rewrite notes, but just, like, bullet points of, like, oh yeah, I need to know, like, the difference between first degree and second degree murder. Like, this is the key difference, you know?
Yeah, it starts
so that
to
really
become
helped
more
me.
Clear, like, with time, especially having taken it more than once, it starts to become more clear of what are the fundamentals that you need.
Mm-hmm.
And so you can recognize, like, oh yeah, that I need more understanding in that, and you can focus on that. You sort of put things in a way where you can remember it, where you don't have to remember, like, this long drawn out rule statement, where you just need to remember, like, okay, such and such
certain things.
Yeah, like certain words that are trigger words or whatever. With doing so I don't know if you kept account of MBEs, but having taken it 3 times with Adaptabar and with other MBE questions I did, I think I mentioned it in Patrick's episode. I'm probably at, like, almost 6,000, if 6,000, because, and honestly, like, the benefit is, like, I got to a point where I can look at a question and know, like, it's this type of question because I've seen it so many times, and it might change it. But you only get that with repetition, like massive repetition.
Yeah, I did definitely multiple thousands. I don't know how many exactly, but at least 4,000 probably over the 3 times I took it. And funny that you say, like, you know, you read a question and you're like, oh, I've seen that one so many times, you just, like, know it. There was a question on the bar exam. I don't know if I got it right or not, obviously, but I read the call of the question. I didn't even read the facts. I just looked at the answers and I knew the answer immediately. And then I read just to double check, I read the facts and I was like, yep, still that answer.
Any last words of advice to our bar takers and our students?
Like I said earlier, it's your exam. Study the way that you need to study. Don't be distracted by your friends and how well your friends are doing on their bar exam courses. Just focus on yourself. And what I wish I would have heard is, it's okay if you don't pass. It'll be okay. It really will be. From someone who didn't pass the first or second time.
This is
it's
why
okay
we're
not to. It's okay not to pass. It's really okay. It means nothing about you. you're gonna be fine. And if you want to vent to me, if for some reason you don't pass the first time, I hope everyone does, and you just need a vent, hit me up on the gram.
For sure.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode. Be sure to like and subscribe to the Bar Stories Project's YouTube channel so that you don't miss out on any new content. The Bar Stories Project is brought to you by creator and executive producer Chuck Bonazza, associate producer Patrick Ryan, original music by Justin St. John and Christian Savage. Join us next time on the Bar Stories Project.